What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Before we get into the video, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel out a lot. Thank you guys for the support. There was a lot that was going on last season for the Alabama team. You had the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, but you didn't have the weapons to keep up later in the game against Georgia. Eventually, Georgia won the football game off of the Killian Ringo pick that Bryce Young threw. Now, heading into this upcoming season, this Alabama team looks stronger than ever. Like some people were saying, this is arguably Nick Saban's toughest team that he's ever built. Like, it is that good. You go out, you get Elijah Ricks from LSU, who was one of the best cornerbacks in 2021. And then you go out and you also get Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech transfer running back that went to Alabama, who's one of the most explosive and best college football players that year as well. The whole country knew that Alabama was going to try to come into the season and just dominate everyone and win another national title. Nick Saban was furious, but little did he know, there was a lot of stuff that led up to a lot of stuff. You bring those talented players, obviously with the great recruiting classes. You have Bryce Young coming back another year. Now, you were kind of worried about the inexperience there at the wide receiver, but they're so talented that you just thought that they would be a really good wide receiver room at Alabama. Really wasn't the case that season. You had the conflict of Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, the argument and the back and forth with the NIL recruitment. Texas A&M had the #1 recruiting class that signed like what, five stars or whatever, something ridiculous. Their best class, one of the best classes of all time. But seriously, Nick Saban is a wizard at what he does. Nick Saban is a guy that uses everything they can. You know, at Alabama, you don't have a lot of adversity. You win so much, you do so much. What adversity do you have there? It's crazy how Alabama football has been this dominant over the past 10 to 15 years or whatever. It's just been insane. Nick Saban kind of got into it with Deion Sanders. There was a bunch of different stuff that happened for Nick Saban and that Alabama team. Maybe some people believe that was distractions, and Nick Saban is definitely not the type to buy into these distractions, and I don't think the distractions would ever hurt him. He is a guy that's a business guy. He knows what his team needs to do to win championships and be the best program in college football. He knows how to do it. He knows what it takes to do it. Now that you have all this different stuff that's happened to Deion now, and then the Jimbo Fisher stuff, now you go into the season, Alabama football, you probably pissed them off. Do you think, hey, all the stuff that's led up, that little drama that's came in, they're probably pretty mad. Alabama football started dominant like they usually are, destroying their opponents. But then week 2 came around. It was at Austin. This game I will remember vividly for a very long time. It was a game that I thought Texas was going to go into and absolutely get throttled in. I mean, this Alabama team was, like I said, people were saying arguably this Nick Saban's best put together team ever. And then they go out there and Texas beats them for a good 3 quarters easily. Texas loses Quinn Ewers that game, which he looked pretty good in the first quarter, and who knows if he would have stayed in the game, if he would have kept it up or not. But Texas gave Alabama a fight, and that should have been the first sign of Alabama, like, concern, which I know some people did, but it's hard because it's like Alabama football is so good that how are you going to have any levels of concern? How are you going to doubt Nick Saban as a coach and as a guy running that program? So now you get a little bit into the season, a little bit more games. They started doing really well again. They beat Texas that game. It was a very inspiring performance by Texas Longhorns, but the next few games were very interesting for them. They played Texas A&M, another down-the-wire game. But the next game we're about to talk about is a season-defining game, in my opinion. They play in the rivalry game of Tennessee and Alabama. This is at Tennessee. This is a very hard game to win. Their fans came out and they put on a show themselves that game. So he goes out there, they beat Alabama in a shootout game. So you got 2 games where it's just kind of mental mistakes, penalties, all just, bad plays. You know, you have a guy in a Tennessee game that tries to pick up the ball when no one touched it, and then he fumbles it in the A&M game. Next, Texas A&M almost beats them. And you got the LSU game, they lose the game. The Ole Miss game was kind of close. You know, just a lot of close games for Alabama this year. Now their defensive coordinator at Alabama, Pete Golding, goes and takes a job at Ole Miss as a defensive coordinator. A lot of Alabama fans want that move to happen because they weren't happy with Pete Golding's time at Alabama, because they felt like he wasn't the guy to put together a really good defense for them. Alabama fans were also not happy. Now, Alabama's offense, I thought, was pretty productive in the 2 years that it was there, but Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Now he takes the job somewhere else, so in the NFL. So now you have a situation where you have to fill 2 coordinator spots. This is the time where Nick Saban is at his best. He will find the guys to evolve his football team that will make his team better, recruiting-wise, playing on the field, everything. Nick Saban is a guy that hates losing. If anyone has followed the career of college football, he gets upset about losing. With those 2 moves happening, and not necessarily him firing, even though he probably pushed both out of the seat, it'll be interesting to see this Alabama roster, this team next year, and who they go and get. Because Nick Saban's going to hire some really good coordinators. I just have a feeling he has always. I don't know the candidates for either position. It will be really interesting what style he goes with, who he brings in. And, you know, you have Jalen Milroe as your quarterback next year. So it'll probably be a guy catered to a style like that. This Alabama roster is going to be pretty crazy next year, because with a lot of guys, you don't know what to expect. But they're going to be stacked. They're going to be good. The real question is, can they be national championship good next year? I think they always will. As long as Nick Saban's coaching there, his recruiting, and everything else, they will be a national championship contender. Like with Clemson. You know, Clemson, they were in a deeper position than Alabama, in my opinion, but they go out, they get rid of they go out and they fix the offensive coordinator position. They bring in a guy who is doing really well right now, who's a great hire. Kind of like a Lane Kiffin-esque hire for Clemson and Dabo Swinney. That's what I'll expect from Nick Saban with these 2 hires. But yeah, that'll be it for me. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.